All right. Well, I think people are going to keep rolling in, but we'll just get started with our morning. Good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of these faces and names, and we're really glad that you were able to join us today for this, what is going to be a really, really wonderful set of presentations. I'm Beth Stone. I am the site manager at Gutiérrez-Hubbell House, and it is just a great pleasure to me to be able to welcome all of you all, to welcome all of these really wonderful writers to this, I was going to say this morning, but it's actually afternoon, so this program this afternoon. Just a couple of things before we get started to let you all know this presentation is being recorded, and we'll be having the speakers maximized, but we just want to let you all know that. Once it goes up on our webpage, we will send you all the link in a follow-up so that you have access to that. And if you want to share it with other people, we absolutely welcome that. But I just like to let you know that that's happening. The other thing, there's a lot of people on this call, so please do go ahead and mute yourself while the program is going on so that we can really hear our writers as well as possible. So those are just some little logistical things. I'll also say we'll send a follow-up email after this. It's going to have the link to sign up if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter and find out more about things going on at Gutiérrez-Hubbell House, other Bernalillo County Open Spaces and things like that. We'd love for you to join us there. And we'll also be putting at the end and by email a little survey. We're working with some students at UNM in a museum evaluation class to understand a little bit more about our visitors. And so we have a 4-question survey and an invitation if you'd like to do an interview with one of these students to help us build out new kinds of programs and exhibits that are speaking to what our community is interested in hearing and seeing. So we would love for you to fill that out. At the end, it'll only take a second. It's only got 4 questions. So we'll send that in the chat at the end of this program and also by email. So it would be great if you would help us out with that. Finally, I have a couple just little announcements. So the exhibit is open. This program is part of our programming with the exhibit Enduring Querencias, which the guest curator, Esther Garcia, is going to talk about afterwards. But if you would like a postcard from the exhibit, I would love to send you one. So send me an email. My email is in the in your confirmation. I'll put it in the chat when I'm done here. I'd love to send you that. And we would love to send you our annual calendar of exhibits. So we've got 5 community curated exhibits coming up this year, and we would love to share that with you. Additionally, we'll be sending out next week our call for new exhibits. We really like to work with community curators like Esther, and so we're sending out a call. It will be due June 1st, so you got some time. But if you would like to talk to me about an idea that you have for an exhibition at Gutiérrez-Hubbell House, I'm here to help with that. I'm here to talk about that. I'm here to help you prepare an application for our exhibit proposal process. It's our first formal call for exhibits. So please tell people, please, if you know somebody who has something that would be a great thing to bring to our community, please share. And yeah, we would just really love to get the word out about our recruiting of new curators for new exhibits. It can be art, history, environment, agricultural history. We do a lot of things at Gutiérrez-Hubbell House, so we would love to see your ideas in our exhibit halls. So those are my announcements. And again, thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to see you all. And I would like to introduce Esther Garcia, who's our guest curator for Enduring Querencias, to talk a little bit about the exhibit.
Hi, I'm Esther Garcia, and the work collected through my research was graciously displayed within the community for the people as my vision of Enduring Querencias, lost and reclaimed expressions of home. The photographs, poems, and reflections of the South Valley is hanging at the historic Gutiérrez-Hubbell House until May 2021. An exhibit of 23 panels sheds light on the explorations of a South Valley's daughter photopoetic journey on mapping my own Querencia. It revealed the remembrance of overlooked people whose stories make up the South Valley's cultural landscape. The exhibit centered on love and of home and reclaiming Querencia. Beyond the academics, the citations, the qualitative findings, this exhibit allowed me to give back. It stands as a visual marker of the pride and traditions hidden in the area beyond the master narrative. The collection will always be a reminder of community's desire to leave a vocal legacy. These counter stories revealed people stitched to the place and the enduring influence of the community that dare to challenge barrio storylines. The pandemic of 2020 did not kill my vision or silence my participants' voice. The storytelling, poetic verses, and reflections illuminated the area and rekindled a place not lost in the people's hearts. Now I will introduce from Bernalillo County's Open Space, Justin Chavez.
Thanks, Esther. And it's been great working with you and with Elizabeth and everyone else to get this exhibit up. Apologies, I've been dealing with some technical issues here, trying to get people logged in here. So hopefully we'll be able to get everyone on. But thanks for kind of, working with us as we work through the Zoom issues. But we're really happy to be hosting this program today. And kind of just wanted to give you a quick introduction to Bernalillo County Open Space. So as co-hosts of the program, we've been around now for a little over 20 years when the county first started its open space program to protect places that have special natural as well as cultural and historic resources. So our goals are really focused on protecting our water resources, and so that includes our acequias, the river, and springs up in the foothills. We protect habitat for wildlife as well as providing opportunities for outdoor recreation and environmental education. We also preserve agricultural land and traditions around farming. So keeping agricultural land in production is a big, an important part of what we're doing at the Gutiérrez-Hubbell House. And so, again, we really encourage you guys to get out to check out the exhibit on the grounds of the open space, and can take a walk around the acequia and just kind of enjoy the landscape there. I think it's a great place to reflect on on what's important to us, and I think that kind of speaks to our topic today of Querencia and our sense of home, our sense of place, and sense of self. I think that's kind of tied together with our natural lands and with our open spaces that we have protected here in New Mexico. So I think, and here in Bernalillo County, I think so. We're lucky to have those resources, and that's mainly because of the the organizing and the advocacy work of everyday folks, neighbors who said this place is too special to be developed and should be preserved, for future generations. So that's kind of the legacy we're holding up and trying to be good stewards of our environment and of our natural resources. So I think some of those themes, might be expressed today in the works that we're about to hear from our presenters. So I'm super excited to be here and to be able to help co-host this event. So now I'm going to introduce Valerie Martínez with the National Hispanic Cultural Center to give you a little more context on the class and share our presenters. So kicking it off to Valerie here. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos. Thank you, Beth and Esther and Dustin. My name is Valerie Martínez, and I'm the Director of the History and Literary Arts Program at the National Hispanic Cultural Center. At the NHCC, as we refer to ourselves, we are dedicated to the preservation, promotion, and advancement of Hispanic Latinx culture, art, and humanities. One of the ways we do this in the History and Literary Arts Program is by offering community writing workshops for the general public. These 6 to 8 week writing workshops for adults and teens are taught by experienced and dedicated instructors, and they're inspired by topics that we consider mission consistent. In this case, the topic of this workshop was Querencia, and our course reading was the wonderful anthology, Querencia, Reflections on the New Mexico Homeland, published by UNM Press last year and edited by Levi Romero, who's with us today, Vanessa, Fonseca-Chavez, and Spencer Herrera. Each week, the writers you'll hear today read chapters from the anthology, wrote original work in response to our discussion and prompts, and deeply explored this essential and perhaps elusive idea of querencia. Where and what and who gives us a sense of belonging, a sense of safety, a sense of home? You're about to hear 10 writers explore this very layered and complex theme, something that made for incredibly rich conversations in our time together. The workshop was for writers working in all genres, so you're about to hear a mix of poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, and memoir. Before we begin, I want to let you know that there is some adult language in some of the pieces. As with good creative work, sometimes there is a necessity for language that authentically evokes a moment, a scene, an idea with the forcefulness that is required. There are also moments that describe racial and sexual assaults experienced by our writers. Sometimes, as one of our writers has stated, there's just the necessity for telling it like it is. I'm so grateful for the collaboration that has made today's event possible with the Gutiérrez-Hubbell House and Bernalillo County Open Space. In history and literary arts, we love to collaborate. Programming just gets better when creative and generous partners are involved. And finally, before I introduce our speaker, I want to say how grateful I am and how honored I feel to have been the instructor for this workshop. To be able to spend a few months working with this group of writers has been really wonderful. I think I got more out of it than they did. One quick note, after each writer finishes, there will be a few silent seconds for applause. We'll all be muted to prevent any background noise, but I encourage you to clap or snap or otherwise show your appreciation. And so let's get started with our first reader. I am happy to introduce Bonnie Bassan. Bonnie is a New Mexico transplant from Chicago. She is a lawyer, writer, editor, mother, and yoga instructor, and seeks to live beyond even these identities. She writes mainly nonfiction and poetry. Happy to present you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Valerie. And I want to say thank you to Valerie for introducing me to the ghazal, because I'm going to read a ghazal today. For those of you who don't know, a ghazal is an ancient Persian love poem, not necessarily Persian anymore. And it literally means speaking to women. So my ghazal is called Contradictions Harmonized. 1. Mountains that swept a sister's ashes, hug me as I walk, whisper another time and place. Where do you feel the sweetness of the soft breeze? In the woods, near the ditch, where the roadrunner and hawk wait. Plop, drip, ploof went the soft rain on parched soil. The healing drops sat on the surface. The bosky her refuge from the polemic, pandemic, the violence, safe and connected to the grasshoppers, snakes, and rabbits. What is the delicious marrow of this life? Desire now coursing through my arteries. A lover fed the quail in the yard. His unkind words cut my flesh like a jagged can. Red, juicy, slippery, metallic smell. Vital, boiling, women's shame. The ground underneath is a wise parent's solid comfort. Each muffled footstep in damp leaves breathes darkness. Her anger frightens, generative, below the surface, burns like fire, gnaws at the flesh and organs like a rat, kills. With drops of his heart's blood, Nightingale had nourished the red rose. Then came a wind. Language seduced her body, speaking in tongues, similar sounds, cacophony mends the discord. Sliding the needle into the vein to take the body's secret elixir, freed, oxygenated, turns to red. I know how to coax blood from the body. The trees hold hands underground, nurture their own. Melting snow under the sun's gaze teases of spring. Empty, I search for another state, wearing a skin that fits, asking everything, are you my lover? Why not live with a moon in each eye, always saying what every mouth is dying to hear? An abandoned well reclines in the meadow, its bucket askew on the ground, the water long evaporated by its longing for truth. Hesitating to leap into the ancient waters, childhood scars still on her knee and brow. The vast dark waters lay receptive in the future, a voyage we will remember after memory. Astonish yourself with the true and beautiful. I am familiar to myself, and yet sui generis, so foreign. Inside, the molten lava fights for release. Pandora's wish, lift it from skin before she unleashes her trouble on the world. Young Buddha sat by the ditch. Stuck on a stick, the water giggled. Surprised by the sound of steps, the blue heron startled. Ducks guffawed. Anger toppled the trees, flames licked at the trunks. Anger killed a sister before she found a way to say how much she loved her. I water each day this earth, a favorite potted plant of hers. Love, tired of speaking sweetly, wants to rip to shreds all your erroneous truths, Pandora. 2. Poems must be breathed, inhaled and exhaled. How her father sang the menorah's blessing while the candle flickered. My Querencia is also unquenched spirit, rising after I've burst into flames on a pyre of old fables. Compelled to embody the truth for your sake and hers, she stuttered, teasing love from loss like strands of a yarn skein. En archeho logos, in the beginning the word, its shape felt in your mouth before you know its impulse. Tears leak from her eyes, no reason, every reason. Their child a blend of Aztecs, Moors, wasps, and Jews. At the unseen filament joining mandarin ducks on the water, the crane formation dances overhead. I give you, my son, stories like jewels to feed you in the drought years when your father and I are gone. We ate symbols, bitter herbs for slavery, salt water, the slave's tears, parsley for renewal, the shank bone, blood smeared on the doors, matzah, bread they carried fleeing Egypt. The sister gone, the father too, beauty persists. Gone is her discomfort with beauty's lazy illogic. The stories echo ancestors whose stories and names we forgot and never knew. Their blood in your body remembers. Weary of the divisive intellectualism, even thought, one current in the ditch, seamlessly, joyfully joined another. When you knew them in your wildness, delighted at the light through trees, a sundog, time stopped to gape. Why is this night different from all others? Ma nishtana halayla haze nikol halelo. Only longing for beauty's delight was left. Pleasure rearranging words, creates a surprise world. Patriarchy grows from the same root as patria. In Pandora's DNA, we find the laceration and the salve. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Margo Chavez. Margo Chavez Charles is a daughter of Southern New Mexico. Born in Las Cruces, now a norteña from Santa Fe. After wandering far from home, she returned. She has taught interdisciplinary courses at UNM and Spanish and ESL at the Santa Fe Community College and in intensive programs in New Mexico and abroad. Margo.
Thank you, Bonnie. Longing for Querencia. We came together to talk about Querencia, to see what it meant for us. Rudolfo Anaya says that Querencia is love of home, love of place. It's a sense of our community, of our culture, and of our own particular place in that community that helps to shape our identity. It has something to do with belonging, something to do with roots. It has to do with sharing stories. I come from a loving and story-sharing family. There are a lot of funny people in my family, from my dad with his Jack Benny delivery to my sister who tends towards the outrageous, and my mother and my cousins and my uncles. And I tell a good story too. I will tell you some. When I was a little girl, I rode my bicycle every chance I got. I pretended that I was driving along highways in faraway lands. My bike gave me the first sense of a larger world, certainly one in my imagination, but also of a real one out there where I might go someday. And it gave me a longing for travel. In high school, I loved study hall. In our tiny, cozy library at Madonna High School, with the book-lined walls and the long tables, the silence and the peace. In this library, I read E.E. Cummings' rare work of prose, The Enormous Room. It's an autobiographical novel about his period as an ambulance driver in France during World War I and the subsequent time spent in a French prison. It wasn't exactly a book about travel, but what captured me were all the passages in French that I couldn't understand. I vowed to learn French, and remembering my bicycle rides, I vowed to go live someplace foreign. In college, I hung out with the foreign students. I still remember my cousin Irene teasing me about the guys I dated. See America first was what Irene told me. But I also knew it was envy because of my Persian boyfriend, who looked like Omar Sharif and wore a long suede coat with a fur collar and drove a small blue convertible. He was, in short, exotic and cool. And I did study French, and I met a Frenchman of, at all places, New Mexico State University. And I sort of learned French, and I went to Paris after I graduated to see if we wanted to get married. We did. But there's more to my life than a romantic ending, living in Paris with a Frenchman and a baby. Michelle died in an automobile accident, and I was left a young widow with a 15-month-old baby. I might say that Querencia is a place of belonging, a place of safety. I might say that Querencia is a place where people love you. But what happens when those people are gone? Memory land is also Querencia, but not all memories are safe. We cannot always be protected. One day in the period of months after Michelle died, and I was still with his family in Grenoble, my father-in-law, Pepe, felt beset and beleaguered by the rest of the family for something he had done badly. I don't know or don't remember what it was about, but it gave him a chance to enter in his drama of wanting to throw himself off the balcony. Everyone in the family knew that Michelle could have calmed Pepe. I remember thinking, Michelle, why have you left me to face this? He was gone instead of protecting me from his family's dramas, different from my own family's dramas. One summer, I attended an intercultural communication workshop. At the end, in the closing ceremony where people stood up to share their learning and insights, One young African-American woman stood up and said, "I have spent all my life feeling I lived in the margins. I'm happy to see so many people who live in the margins too." Because that is what happens when you travel. You take on pieces of other worlds, of other cultures. You lose some of your own rootedness. You see other ways of doing things, other ways of thinking. You're not as secure anymore. You live between two worlds. You're trying to feel secure being a bridge, but you're shaky in either world, not entirely belonging yet, or not entirely belonging anymore. You feel like an imposter. When we share stories, we braid them together into larger stories. We are a multiplicity of voices, of languages, of stories, each one authentic, each one with its own power. There are many stories that can all be true. I will tell you a few more. After my husband died, I returned home with my son and then went to graduate school in Vermont, then back to live and work in France for a few more years, and finally back home to New Mexico. But I still went back to France with my son every summer because he had another Querencia, other antepasados. Little kids learn languages quickly, forgetting them and remembering them again. One year when Eric was about 5 years old, my mother said to him, "Eric, you're going to see your meme in France. Do you still remember your French?" In his childish wisdom, Eric answered, "I still remember my French. I just forgot all the words." We forget the words, but we remember the feelings. We forget the words, but we remember the land. We forget the words, but we remember the food and the smells and the laughter around the table. One year at Christmas, Eric came home from the university with 3 Russian friends. I remember cooking a lot and washing a lot of dishes because they liked to eat and loved New Mexican food. They wrapped their tamales in a flour tortillas. I almost told them that wasn't the way to do it, but then I thought, hey, that must be the Russian way to eat tamales. What do I know? I really like the idea that though Querencia implies rootedness, it doesn't imply being static. Instead, we all continue to grow and connect from this shared place. I like to think we emerge and grow like trees, like flowers, with roots that hold us secure, but with branches that reach in all directions, or with flowers in many hues. I like that picture. It's okay that we are as different as individual trees. It's okay that we speak different languages, that we forget words. It's okay that we eat our tamales funny. Thank you. I'm happy to introduce Esther Garcia. Esther was born and raised in the South Valley of Albuquerque, New Mexico. She feels blessed to be intertwined in her circle of Querencia, the place where she was born and raised, the place that motivates her to grow and develop as a proud daughter of New Mexico. Esther's Querencia is also her body and memories, her children and the people she deems as family. Her photo documentation work has been exhibited and presented at various galleries and academic conferences. She is in the master's program in the Chicana and Chicano Studies Department at the University of New Mexico.
Scapular spirit of schoolgirls. Father, forgive me, for I must have sinned, as I fall into the crevices of darkness when no one was looking. You cursed me and kicked me and made me pay for my own self-hate as it unfolded today. Mom, it is May 8th. What day? May 8th. Leaning on my quilted pillow, I reach for cyber calendars because this child home from school in a parochial plaid skirt does not understand that I meant day of the week. No, but I'm wondering what day that lands on. It looks like Saturday. We need to start getting ready. We need to get a dress and shoes and earrings. Do you know what it is? Lauren says it's when you tell him all your sins. Yes, confession. What did you say, Mom? Who really remembers, since it had been at least 38 years since my last confession, my penance of Hail Marys and Our Fathers that I probably didn't even truly pray. I remembered that day, the sweet scarlet wine. I remembered the rizos in my hair and exactly which pew I sat in. But I did not remember my confession. So I told one of those lies moms tell. Probably that I was sorry I wasn't a better daughter. Do you know what you want to wear? Your sister wore cousin Vanessa's dress. I wonder if that dress would fit you. I knew the dress her cousin wore was a size 7 and would never fit her. Ava Rose was built strong and robust since birth. She would need an altered dress for her own body. A healthy and athletic child who was noticed by 2 viejitas in a Santa Fe elevator that lovingly said, "Mira la gordita, ah, qué bonita." Shall a mother never forget? Would you want to try it or do you want your own? My own, I guess. What were you thinking? A white one. Well, duh, yeah, it has to be white. All of your sacraments will be in white. White in baptism, communion, confirmation, wedding, and in your final journey of death. Everything is whitey, white, white. What I meant is, do you want it long or short, no sleeves or long sleeves, poofy or sleek, veil or none? In my head, I was thinking glamorous lace and imported tulle. I want it to be long sleeves, she says, to cover my hair. She starts stroking the raven black hair on her dark skin near her right forearm. My child who brandished a skin tone darker than mine and looked like my childhood sister. Or I can cut it off or shave it off. By this time, my eyes had been doubled in width. My pretty brown eyes had turned to black. With shock and surprise, for all the Dr. Seuss books could never assist me with the roller skates or lyrical songs that twist a spin on the facts of her visible differences. How did she rationalize that a razor to the virgin skin could solve her insecurities of genetic fuzz? By this time, I stood up aggressively out of my comfort of my whitey white bed. No, we never want to do that. In the obligatory response of a mother, this mother, me, I scrambled through verses. I have never noticed that hair. I have some too. Everybody does. I juggle excuses and justify with the mysteries of our body. The unexpected last minute, I did not have time to prepare for this buzz of fuzz today. Cursed by my own insecurities and side burdens that extended past the point of cute or feminine. I show her that my hair that somehow blended or became irrelevant to me along the way. We both look and try to grab onto strands. Prayers came for Ava Rose in my constant visits to Santuario and Santo Niño Chapel. They delivered me a divine daughter with blonde desires and unrealistic expectations. Her arrival was a blessing only a God could bestow. She came to me in faith as perfection. But you cannot see yours. Mine are so dark, I'm hairy. My reflection on her, her reflection in me, I felt a lump swell in my throat and tears welled in my eye, for I only saw her as the most magnificent child with the heart that would someday shift the world. That same corazón that gave me belonging, place, and peace. I sucked that tear back into the corner of my eye duct and shouted that deeply lodged lump and purged it from my throat to muster my moment. You're beautiful. And that hair, the color of your skin is you. Embrace it. If you want a short sleeve, wear a short sleeve. You cannot feel ashamed. Our body is our home and the structure we build inside is the value. Pick the dress you love with white satin gloves and crucifixes. Grandpa's tarnished rosary and immaculate conception. 8-year-old sins do not exist. No braids, bows, or tiaras distract from the tan skin and brown peepers, from curvy frames and the boredom of brown hair. To my daughter of strength, who planted and pickled in my body, who was cut out of my flesh on the first day of autumn, who developed within me, sucking my iron, my power, my love. My rainbow child of luck could not fall victim to basic views of beauty when she did not know that the swallows of San Juan Capistrano had delivered her in greatness from the tears I left on the steps. When I felt I cried alone with womb in hand and wishes of a dream baby, she arrived with comfort and nuzzled my neck with warm golden halos. Mijita, morenita. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Helena. She has been witnessing the existence of poetics since she was a young observer of the world around her. She loves language and the ways of playing with the unexpected. She is also currently a master's student at UNM studying many intersectional topics, among which are literature and literacy.
This poem is called Lago de Xochimilco. I find myself in the eternal emptiness between raindrops, microcosms materialized in dust and air, primordial and spiritual. On my face, dejo que me persinen the origins of life. I am other, I am not. Instead of land, my body clings to memory and tears, not because of sorrow, rather for the ecstasy of feeling and the chaos of perpetual living. If invisibility was my terror, then I fear no more. Muddy twin rivulets stain me in stripes of ache. Visible is just a matter of seeing. I remember the first chorus of Thirsting Return in English, in silence, lagrimas pooling on my peony pink pillow. I just wanted to go home. Was I not there? My mother in the next room. Since then, I venerate every door I cross, wondering if one will lead me to the shore where my heart bleeds its alien rhythms and where my rib-twisted tongue needs no justification, inhabiting those split-second dreams of arrival entre brazos fuertes de que ya llegué. Instead, each door opens into empty hallway or room, or to the mysterious forget-me-not-me. Perhaps my skin was the obstacle, relegated to the panico of being drained because I first needed to exist in a gulf. This a tomb sealed with tears, the only right I know. And like a dream, land formed behind my eyes. The birth of a volcano moored me deep into the sea, prayers hissing as flaming lava kissed water sweet. That my arrival on the earth, the call to my querer, was turbulent and unwitnessed. Xochimilquistli, my mother in the next room. I was at once the very soft Xochitlatoli breaking through the ethereal unknown, a confluence of will and purpose and dream. Still, I planted fragrant incense in torrential rains, por la avenida Iztaccíhuatl, en Huipulco, en la vista de las montañas y al lado del mar. Each whisper tattooed on my heart as a witness to Ninanemi Kualiotli, the way to the Lake of Flowers. What if land is not where I come from? Thank you. I would like to introduce the next reader. Patricia Perea was born and raised on the Llano Estacado, somewhere between Delia, New Mexico, Del Rio, Texas. A cotton field, a canyon, and a long stretch of the I-40 is her home.
Gracias. The luminous mysteries, openness to the Holy Spirit. This morning, before I got to the river, I prayed to the buffalo who linger among the juniper and yucca. Their transparent figures barely waves in the warm November air. We laughed here once. Our tios hid eggs close to the picnic tables and far from the nopales. Easter baskets in our hands, we shrieked when something pink or purple caught our eye. I prayed to the 5 deer laying so quiet next to the broken foundation of the house Dad built with love for his horses, then tore down with sadness for the family we never were. I was 5 when a tornado touched down just across the road. We had no basement or cellar, just a bathtub, a radio, and one long note piercing through the speakers. I prayed to mis antepasados who rode the llano. They knew under their feet water seeped into rock, mountains slumbered, and bones settled in. Never forget the ghosts, my dad said. They killed them all. Listen for their hooves and their neighs. They know we love them. They know we remember. I prayed to the red earth, turned mud with water that seeped between my toes when I was a kid. Today it sifts through my fingers as the sand it has now become. I taste it, Remember its fine form on the windowsills the day we left the canyon for town. And Dad, for silence. Gracias por escuchar. Shelli Rottschafer graduated from the University of New Mexico with her doctorate in 2005. She currently lives in Ada, Michigan, and teaches Spanish at Aquinas College. Her heart calls her to the Southwest, and her wanderlust is her querencia.
Thank you. I really appreciate being a part of this community, even though I'm a different time zone away. Hello, everyone. My piece is called Para ella, por ahora. Inspired by Querencia, a concept where we center ourselves upon community and a sense of place. Yet too, a Querencia in which una mujer develops a tolerance for contradictions and ambiguities while she juggles between her realities. Here, I juggle between the borderland of girlhood and womanhood, past and present. One foot entre la frontera de la niñez y la adultez. This bridge acts as her tightrope, a pathway that bears witness to her words so that her story outs. And now for my poem, Para ella, para ahora, by Shelli Rottschafer. Cedro, pino, roble, grounded into the earth. Maybe to some it seems like una nada estéril. Yet the movement of its ramas in el crepúsculo convince her otherwise. Crimson flowing, una cicatriz abierta, scraped from the scab she thought had healed. Chamomile light, warms como un toque gentil. The mother lays her hands on the child. Her daughter tries to love esta caricia, despite its warning. Chilling azure, la niña floats on the surface. Her face tilts toward el cielo, blanketed between the blues. Violeta es el color de la rabia, for which esta mujer can't find the words. Readied upon her pursed lips, ella remains indignantly stilled. Por ahora. Mil gracias. Our next author is Beva Sanchez-Padilla. Beva is native of New Mexico and author of 6 produced plays, including Mali y Maya, a story of Malinche, La Guadalupe que camina, Leti y su mamá, and An Altar for Emma Tenayuca, all staged in San Antonio, Texas. Her early distributed videos include El Corrido de Juan Chacón, a music documentary, and De Mujer a Mujer, Chicana Sexuality.
Thank you, Shelli. Manita Moments, 1952. I think I was born a communist. Did it come from my mother? She was born upstream from the acequia here in Pajarito, and she would not agree. But Mama Maria Barbarita taught convivencia, although she would not call it that. It was a belief and a practice of sharing and caring in común, together with the scores of cousins who all came from her mama's 6 daughters and 3 sons, her mama Isabel Saavedra Padilla. I learned that I was part of a bigger deal and that we needed to care for everybody and do our part and have respect. Or did this political perspective come from my dad, Gilbert Paul, a printer pressman who one day sat with my sister Barbara and me and held out a box of matches? He took 1 match and broke it, then 2 matches, 3, then 4. And when he couldn't break the bunch, he said, when you're together, they can't break you. And that is why we're in the union. I made my first Holy Communion in 1st grade at St. Francis School on South Broadway in Albuquerque. And that year we had a spelling bee in the classroom. We were told that if we wanted to join, we had to bring pennies from home to be spread flat out on our desks. And when it came our turn to spell a word, we would give up a penny. When I see that memory of copper coins sitting in rows on only some of the brown wooden desks, I think it was that spelling bee that really made me a socialist. 1957. My father lost his job at Valiant Printing Company, but the union found him a good one in Oakland, California. We lived in this giant Navy barracks turned apartments, and I loved it because anytime we went downstairs, there were always lots of kids playing. Mama could see us and yell from the kitchen window. I remember one day my dad was so happy. He announced to us that we had finally finished paying the medical bill from when my mama had all those surgeries 8 years earlier. Dad loved the Kaiser health system in Oakland because he only paid $5 when my brother James was born. And he would say it over and over. We moved back to Albuquerque when I was 11. Give me the dust storms and the tumbleweeds. Forget about these earthquakes, my mama said. But I think it was because she really missed her sisters. 1968. I had never been to Texas, except when, as kids, we went through El Paso to get to our vacation destination, Juarez. It always seemed El Paso was in New Mexico, but this trip was different. A hemisphere honeymoon to San Antonio, Texas in a green VW, Highway 40 East, where the sky opened his blanket of holy, I remember. I didn't think it would change as we crossed the New Mexico-Texas border, heading south. But the oil rigs and the yellow dust seemed to make the pillow clouds disappear. We stopped in Lubbock to get gas, a speck of a gas station made of wood with 2 older white men sitting in chairs creaking outside in the front. They had time to waste. They stared at us. As Stan put gas, I went in to use the bathroom. When I came out, he went inside to pay. And just as I started to get into our green bug, one man says to the other in a loud, microphonal, lipless voice, "Well, she don't look Mexican, but I reckon she gotta be." Was it true, I thought, what my uncle Marcelino had said? Tejanos son diferente. They come here to fish and I've seen them piss in the streams. And when they come to hunt, if they don't like the rat, they just leave the venado there, dead. That was a long, long time ago. And I remember nothing about that trip except those loud, Lubbock, lipless words. 1986. And now I can say, after having lived in San Antonio and raising my 2 daughters there, that my uncle Marcelino was wrong. And not all Tejanos disrespect nature. Not all Tejanos are racists. San Antonio, a place where steamy summers are filled with caras de cariño y almas de mucho riqueza, and they are not stingy at all. San Antonio, a place where tourists fiesta out Mexicano style without having to learn Spanish or the money exchange along a river nurtured by the tourists and the planners to finally include the locals. San Antonio, San Quilmas, a place with many querencias of ice houses, Helena, the Alamo, pecans, Emma Tenayuca, and Tacuache dancers. Where Mexicano-Americano elders talk of their own parents picking cotton, learning how to make bread from Germans because it was easier than making tortillas. San Antonio was real Mexican, you know, not New Mexican, real Mexican, I thought, where the bus drivers speak to you in Spanish unapologetically, where the accepted word for eyeglasses are lentes, not anteojos, for hat is sombrero, not cachucha, for dress is vestido, not túnica, for turkey is pavo, not guajalote, For gossip is chisme, not mitote. For being stuck up is chocante, not faceta. My words were wrong, I thought. My words didn't count, I felt. Maybe that's why on one of our yearly trips back home, as we crossed from Texas to New Mexico with my 3-month-old Tejana-born daughter Siboney and her Nuevo Mexicana-born Micaela, I pulled off the highway, removed the moccasins Mama had sent her, and carried her to the tumbleweeds, dust, and dirt. I set her tiny feet and miniature toes bare on the earth. I knew I wasn't wrong. I knew I did count. I think it was a manita thing. Thank you. Our next reader, wonderful Elaine Soto. Elaine, are you there? Yup. Elaine Soto is an artist psychologist. She was an artist in residence at the Taller Boricua for 15 years, where she painted a series of Black Madonnas from around the world. Recently, she published a memoir on the subject, My Journey to the Black Madonna.
Thank you, Beva. I'm unmuted. I love your reading. Thank you. I'm dedicating this reading to my sister who passed away last Saturday. She was a part of my Querencia in the many places we lived. In 1965, Boynton Avenue, Bronx, New York. Peggy and I walked down the quiet urban streets lined with small 2-story brick homes. There is a line of 12 gray-haired women sitting on folding chairs talking. They all stop and follow me and my sister with their eyes. They resume talking like a bunch of chickens in a hen house after we pass. Did you see that? One asks the other. Mom, Peggy, and I board the elevator of our new apartment building on Boynton Avenue. The metal elevator door closes. An elderly white gentleman enters the front entrance and rushes slowly towards us. Mom holds the door open as he lumbers into the elevator. He leans against the wall as he presses the button to the 3rd floor, our floor. When he turns around, he stares at my mother, sister, and me. Niggers, he mutters under his breath. One evening, I hear a commotion on our floor. I open the door to see what is happening. A tall Black man and a sturdy Black woman helped the elderly gentleman who called us niggers into his apartment. What happened, I asked them. The guy in the cleaners says he fell down. He lay there crying for help. How ironic, I think to myself. My mother and I walk home from the movie house nearby where we saw Mary Poppins. I am feeling happy, light, and airy as I walk on the dark, quiet street. It is the block where the gray-haired ladies sit gossiping during the day on their folding chairs. As we walk, I hear the jiggling of coins and hurried footsteps behind us. Sometimes women walking alone got closer to other women walking to stay safe. So I think it could be that. An ominous feeling fills my heart, and I turn around to check who is behind us. I see a man bending down behind me with his middle finger pointing up, aiming for my crotch. My mother swirls around. She screams and goes for his face with her long manicured nails. Get out of here, you son of a bitch, she roars. He stands up in surprise. Mom rushes at him, claws ready to pounce. Stunned, he backs away as she advances toward him. You son of a bitch bastard! He runs away looking behind his back. I returned from classes at Brew College. carrying a pile of textbooks in my arms for the start of the fall semester. I walk into the building and wait for the elevator. Mom cautions us not to take the elevator alone, but I am carrying a pile of heavy textbooks and I decide to take a chance. As I stand waiting, a husky white man with black hair askew rushes through the entrance of the apartment building. His head turns frantically from side to side, surveying the lobby. I decide to walk up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. I am on the second floor landing when I hear someone rushing up the steps behind me. I turn around and see the frantic man running up the steps 2 at a time. He passes me and goes to the 3rd floor. Then he turns around and flies down the steps with his right hand outstretched and his middle finger pointing up in the direction of my crotch. I remember the first time this happened on Boynton Avenue, and I scream and throw my pile of books at his face. I keep on screaming, a scream I didn't know I had. The neighbors open their doors and the man rushes down the steps. Worried, my sister also opens the door to our apartment and walks to the landing. "Was that you screaming?" she asked. "Yes, the man followed me up the stairs and came running down with his finger up, aiming for my crotch." Holding her hand to her heart, she looks around me. "What happened to your books?" I screamed and threw them at him. He raced down the stairs when the neighbors started opening the doors. She helps me pick up my books and carries them up the steps. My heart beats violently against my chest, and my knees tremble as I follow her. I sign up for judo classes at the YWCA. We live in that building for 3 years. My mother opens a beauty parlor on Boynton Avenue and calls it Martin's, after St. Martin de Porres, a Black Catholic monk who brings good luck to businesses. I work in the beauty parlor on weekends. I am washing a customer's hair at the sink. She relaxes, enjoying the massage I give her scalp as I wash her hair. "Oh, that is so relaxing. Thank you." She hands me a $1 tip. I smile back shyly. "You have such a beautiful daughter," she says to my mother, who is coloring someone's hair in the next booth. "Oh, you should see my other daughter, Peggy. She is really beautiful. She is very light-skinned like me." She rolls up the sleeve of her uniform to show off her white skin. "She was born with blonde hair. I was blonde when I was a little girl." Now she dyes her dark hair red. Elaine is dark like her father. He has an olive complexion and black hair and eyes. "She is beautiful inside," says another customer. She and my mother smile and nod. I grow up hearing this, so I think I am Black and not beautiful. In college, there is a competition for Miss Baruch College. My boyfriend, John, encourages me to sign up. The contest is judging us on our appearance and on our extracurricular activities in college and in the community. He thinks I qualify because I'm pretty and committed to the community. I am associate editor of the college newspaper, The Ticker, and on student council, and I volunteer at the Boys and Girls Clubs. I wear a light blue bell-bottom jumpsuit and a matching bandana across my forehead tied around my black hair. There aren't a lot of women in the school, but 6 of us sign up. We are each called upon up to the microphone to speak about ourselves and our involvement in the community. They asked me what the word truth means to me. "Telling it like it is," I answer, and the audience laughs. After I present, a man escorts me to a room in the student center while the students vote for the new Miss Baruch College. After an hour, one of the judges escorts us out to the ceremony. We all sit in our chairs in front of the room. I look at the master of ceremonies and the audience, wondering who won. And the winner of Miss Baruch College is Elaine Soto. Everyone stands and claps. I smile. Inside myself, I think, so I am not ugly. Thank you for listening. I have the pleasure of introducing to you Leeanna Torres. Leeanna Torres is a native daughter of the American Southwest with deep Indo-Hispanic roots in New Mexico. Her querencia is speaking and writing from that sacred sense of place that is inherent to New Mexico, to Nuevo Mexico. That intrinsic relationship between people and place is sagrado. I welcome you, Leeanna. Thank you.
Gracias. Hola a todos. This is a portion of a larger piece, a larger essay, nonfiction memoir. Those of us here in Nuevo Mexico, some people call them barn swallows. We know them better as golondrinas. They use more mud than sticks. They use the earth, tierra, to make their nesting place. And I watch their copper underbellies flashing wildly as they fly in and out, back and forth, busy and intent, building a nest on my porch. Their urgent comings and goings becoming a part of my morning ceremony. A pair of golondrinas prepare for the coming spring. Querencia originates in land, water, family, and food. Originates in ceremony, ordinary, and everything in between. Familia, rezos, cielo, and sky. Even before the sun rises up and over the manzanos, las golondrinas are awake and away from the nest. They rest on the adobe wall adjacent to the house, keeping a close eye as I walk out to water the marigolds and shrubs. They watch me. Mama makes radish enchiladas on Tuesday afternoon. Walking into her kitchen, the familiar smell of fresh tortillas greets me, along with red chili slowly simmering on the stove. The TV's on. Mama's watching her usual episode of Judge Judy. What's the case about today? I ask. There's a lady that's after her landlord, but he tried kicking her out of the apartment, replies Mama, her apron spattered with specks of white flour and smelling of fresh cut onion. Can you grate some queso? That's the only thing I don't have cut up to put the enchiladas together, Mama instructs, and I move through her kitchen, knowing since childhood where every spoon and plate belong. Why did Abuelita make radish enchiladas? I ask Mama, expecting her to explain it as some kind of indigenous or cultural tradition. ¿Sabes qué? I think she only did it because they were so poor. They didn't have money for carnita, so Abuelita had to use the food she could grow in her backyard. Pienso que they couldn't afford meat, which would have been expensive. So instead, she just made radish enchiladas. At Mama's answer, I realized I too often look over the pobreza experienced by my ancestors. On my Mama's side, they were just plain poor, no other way to explain it. I always remember my abuelita having the biggest, most beautiful garden, explains Mama. And I lean into this as Mama begins arranging a tortilla chopped with cebolla, radishes, and cheese. Her working hands remembering with fondness the good times with her abuela. The reality of their poverty lingers in the kitchen between Mama and we are quiet and working. Both my mother and father were the first and only of their siblings to earn university bachelor and master's degrees. Yet Mama still makes radish enchiladas out of both sentiment, remembrance, and brilliant taste. The Spanish word for barn swallows in this region is golondrinas. Of all the birds in the valle, golondrinas tend to be my favorite. But why? Is it the bold tapering of their tails that moves me? Their small, and wild stature among the larger birds like paisanos, gavilans, and grillos? Is it their simplicity, their abundance in numbers in spring? Indigo rustica, the most widespread species of swallow in the world. Fueled by light, we are the lonely landscapes and diverse people of New Mexico. At the first appearance of a new life in the nest, I call Miguel and Santiago over to the front porch to see the birds. Mama bird feeds the 3 hungry mouths that gape out and up from the top of the mud nest. So begins the new, and there is a littering of mud and debris on the concrete of my floor. Las golondrinas are now 5 instead of just 2. So maybe it's not one thing, not food, nor family, nor place that grounds me, but rather the sum of the whole. Alúmbrame mis entendimientos, begs the words of my Papateo's favorite prayer. Illuminate my own understanding. And the golondrinas are forked of what it is to be loved, of what it is to belong. Gracias. And now we have saved the best for last. It is my honor to introduce Lucia. Lucia Trujillo, pardon me. Lucia was born into a sheep ranching family. She grew up in Grants, New Mexico, and graduated from the University of Mexico. She taught in the Albuquerque public schools for several years, is married, and has 3 sons and 4.
Good afternoon. I'm presenting 2 of my written works today, a poem, Land of Fire and Blood, and a story from my childhood, An Adventure with Mi Tata. I hope you enjoy them. Land of Fire and Blood. Apaches, Navajos, Pueblos, ancestors striving to survive in an ancient land of fire and hot molten lava flowing from the peaks of 6 giant craters. Spanish explorers with their wagons and horses trudging their way through sharp, black, volcanic rock, naming the land El Malpay. Why can't we just settle here at the base of this mountain? My ancestors asked. This is a sacred mountain, the Navajo tribe responded. Spanish, Mexican, Native, Union, and Confederate forces battled and shed blood on this land of black lava, red rock, desert plains, and arroyos. As I walk through this intriguing land, I mourn the bloodshed long ago, washed down with the rainwater, flowing rapidly and forcefully through the cañones from the upper levels of las montañas down to the lower desert plains. Estos aguas ensangrentados have washed over these sandy llanos, forming deep arroyos. These arroyos have grown deeper every year. As this tainted rainwater flows through the porous black lava rock and is trapped deep in the caves beneath the surface, cooling and becoming ice, it remains forever frozen, even through the heat waves of summer. Standing on the edge of a mesa, I stop and listening to the wind blowing down el cañón hundido, puedo oír las voces de mis ancianos muertos preguntando, Lucia, ¿qué han apreciado nuestros hijos la santidad y la hermosura de esta tierra? An Adventure with Mi Tata. After 50 years of living on a sheep ranch in southeastern Arizona, my grandparents, Rosalio and Josefita Candelaria, relocated their sheep and cattle ranching business from Concho, Arizona to San Rafael, New Mexico. My grandmother, Josefita, having lived in Albuquerque during most of her childhood, objected to living on the ranch in San Rafael and told my grandfather, "Después de 50 años, estoy tan cansada de vivir en el rancho. I'd like to be able to take the bus, go shopping, or go to the movies," she stated emphatically. Because of mi nana's determination to live in the city, they decided to purchase a home in Albuquerque. Mi tata often commuted to the ranch in San Rafael from his home in Albuquerque. One day, after arriving from San Rafael, he called me to his car. "Come see what I brought from the ranch," he said, as he guided me to the trunk of his car. He then opened the trunk, and there inside was a live lamb with a feet bound with rope. "Oh, what a cute little lamb," I explained. "May I play with it?" I asked. "Sure, let me carry it to the backyard and untie it," he responded. I had such great fun running around their backyard, chasing after the lamb and having it chase me. After a while, mi tata said, "Go inside the house with your nanita." He later called me and asked me to come to the garage. As I walked into the garage, I noticed the lamb hanging from the ceiling with a rope tied to its hind legs and its throat cut. The blood of the lamb was draining into a pail placed under it. Of course, I knew mi tata was going to kill the lamb. I had seen him do this several times before. As a child, I learned that sheep were not our pets. They existed to provide us with food and clothing. Mi tata enjoyed continuing his traditional ways. However, he had to stop butchering sheep because the neighbor next door complained. "Mr. Candelaria, I will have to report you to the city if you continue slaughtering animals in your garage," she said. "Esa mujer no tiene nada más que hacer que cuidar lo que hago yo," he stated defiantly to mi nana as he entered the house. From that time forward, he butchered his animals in El Rancho de San Rafael and brought the meat to his Albuquerque home, pre-cut, packaged, and ready for the freezer. After 50 years, my grandparents had to leave El Concho, a place where they felt safe and a place where they belonged. They left their familia and conocidos in the country, Concho, Arizona, and moved to the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico. They were fortunately able to speak both languages, English and Spanish. However, being the only Hispanics in the neighborhood and coming from a completely different environment, the countryside, they had to work hard to develop their querencia, a sense of safety and a feeling of belonging in the city of Albuquerque. Thank you for listening.
Thank you everyone. This is a good time to unmute yourself so we can hear your praise for the writers out loud. Thank you everyone.
Bravo, bravo.
Yay!
Yay, we did
it. Yay!
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you all, and thank you so much everyone for coming. We do have a little time for Q&A, or just if you'd like to unmute and make a comment. And I put this in the chat, but I want to say again to the writers how grateful I am for them and for just for the beauty of their work and how much they really deepened my own idea of Querencia. So I'm so grateful for them. But anybody wants to say anything or ask a question?
I'd like to open up with a few words of appreciation to everybody. Queridas poetas, I want to extend my sincerest appreciation on behalf of myself and the Querencia Reflections on the New Mexico Homeland co-editors Vanessa, Fonseca-Chavez, and Spencer Herrera, and the 19 other contributors to the anthology. including our esteemed hermano y padrino, Rodolfo Anaya, for contributing the foreword to the book. Mil gracias for celebrating the work with your uplifting, heartwarming, and nurturing poesía. Híjole, se aventaron. You ain't messing around, that's for sure. Abrazos. Gracias también to Valerie Martínez and Patricia Perea from the History and Literary Arts program at the NHCC for facilitating the workshop. Thank you, Elizabeth Stone and Dustin Chavez at the Gutiérrez-Hubbell House for hosting the event and the Enduring Querencias exhibit. Finalmente, aprecio y gratitud to Esther Garcia for documenting and validating the cultural landscape of the Albuquerque South Valley with your amazing project, Enduring Querencias, Lost and Reclaimed Expressions of Home. And I know that Vanessa's in the audience. Spencer might still be in the audience. I think he was on the road and may have lost reception. Some of our other contributors are in the audience too as well. So I open it up for them and their comments. Pero gracias. Thanks to everyone. It was amazing.
Thank you.
My name is Imelda. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? My name is Imelda.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm not going to put the camera, but I want to say 2 words. We moved from Mexico to California. And for me, finding a place where the bicultural Latino, Native American, and American culture comes and match together is very refreshing. To me, it's going back to roots and touching that Latino part, but at the same token, being bicultural. And I want to express my appreciation for listening the art, for listening the communications, and the personal experience of each of you. I am here as an I was invited. I am still in California, but I find it very, all what we have today resonates profoundly with my own experience. Thank you so much, and I want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to share this experience with all of you, and continue doing what you're doing. This is just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias.
Hey everyone, I'm Vanessa Fonseca-Chavez. Thank you, Levi, for giving that wonderful congratulatory message on behalf of the Querencia editors. And it's been really wonderful to see the ways that this project has moved in our communities. I was very excited to hear a story from Grants, New Mexico, which is my hometown as well. And, I'm moving into a new project that looks at Querencia in eastern Arizona and western New Mexico. So I'm really excited to hear stories that are coming out of that area. But thank you all so much for sharing your stories today and for continuing discussions about the book, with the book. I know that Enrique Lamadrid is here as well, and I want to give him a special thank you for believing in the book and its potential and for helping us move it to publication. So gracias, Profe Lamadrid, as well.
Anybody else want to make a comment or ask a question before we close? Elaine, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for your beautiful help and just great teacher. Appreciate you.
You are welcome. Oh, teachers are only as good as the students in their classes. So you have all made it really so incredible. Thank you.
Yay, yes.
Yay, you, yes.
Thank you, Elaine. I feel the same way. Thank you, Valerie. You've been a wonderful guide.
Yeah, Valerie, I think we all echo those sentiments that you're a wonderful teacher that led us on a great journey.
Yes, I agree.
And Elaine, thank you for being so strong that you were able to speak, and you lost your sister last week. I could have not been reading had that happened. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Beth and Dustin and Esther and the Querencia editors and Rudolfo in our hearts and all of you friends, family, colleagues who've attended today. It's been our pleasure, and we're so glad that you could join us this afternoon. Beth?
I just wanted to say thank you again. It has been just a beautiful experience, the beautiful words, and thanks for everyone who's here, but also the writers for just being willing to share. And yeah, it's just been really, really beautiful. Thanks, Valerie, for partnering with us, and thanks, Esther, for making this connection for us. And I'm just really grateful. And I will say one more plug. Please come out and see us. There's beautiful exhibit. It's open. It's outdoors. It's open 7 days a week, so you can see it through the middle of May. So please come out to Gutiérrez-Hubbell House and check out more of her words, more of Patricia's words, more of Levi's words, and some beautiful photography and just a lot about the Querencia of the South Valley. So thank you all, and wish you a beautiful day.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.